Right, the Empire does need a little bit of a reset because we are 5 seasons in and we've basically not won anything. And our main teams, Sunderland and Hamburg, are both just mid-table in their leagues. And it does feel like every member of the Empire at the moment would have been a lot better off if I was managing just them and focusing only on them. And any one of them individually probably would have won the Champions League by now, which, I mean, it emphasises that the challenge is quite hard, but we do need to start winning some things. Focus number 1, Sunderland, because this is absolutely bobbins. 9th place in the league, like I say, 5 seasons in, and if we look at how those 5 seasons are gone, 11th, 8th, 11th, 11th, 9th, when you consider how much money we've spent to be a mid-table team, that's over £1 billion spent for mid-table football. That's got to change, and Sunderland are not alone. Hamburg finishing 7th in Bundesliga is enough to get into the Europa League, and Viper is the top scorer in all of Germany, which is jolly nice to see. But both these teams need to be pushing for the Champions League, which for the first time in a few years, Standard Liège also won't be playing in as we continue to make them worse than they were in that first season when it was just a bunch of Hamburg reserve players. I think the quality of the Belgian league has just got better faster than we have, because I do think the team we've got at Standard Liège is a better team than the one we had when we won the league. But we are starting to drift down the table now, 3rd place. Into the Europa League. It does mean the money tap will turn off to an extent as well. I don't know why this happens every year. I need to keep closer control on these kind of things. It's not all bad though. Dinamo Zagreb are a bright point in the same way as Standard Liège were a couple of years ago. They've won the league in Croatia for the first time in 5 years as well. It wasn't a foregone conclusion. Okay, we won it there. Second time in 5 years, 3rd time in 5 years. Shh. Either way, that's good. Hopefully we get into the Champions League proper and at least we have some representation in the European Champions League. We should have at least 3 teams in it by now, though. And of course, we've got Mamelodi Sundowns leading the way and showing everyone how it's done. Not only winning the South African League again, but also winning the African Champions League. We just need to keep this club rolling on. And that isn't necessarily easy to do because a lot of these players are going to want to come and play in Europe now. Whenever I've managed in Africa in the past, it has very much been a win the Champions League, then leg it and watch the team be disassembled. Well, because everyone else is taking as long as they are, the job now is to ideally keep them winning every year. If not keep them winning every year, at least get them back to winning. By the time everyone else is ready to be there. So we've got to decide whether we're going to try and keep this team together or disassemble it and build a new one in 3 or 4 years' time when everyone else is ready. And then the other 2 are just a mess. Urawa Red Diamonds in danger of getting relegated. We need some big focus there. And Independiente not much better. Barely mid-table. No chance of getting into the Copa Libertadores. There's much work to do everywhere, which is one of the reasons, it's the main reason why, as I announced at the end of the last episode, we are going to slow down the series. Basically, each episode is going to be half a season now, because trying to cram an entire episode into one video not only means the video this is what, the 5th or 6th video we've managed in 2 weeks. That's not ideal. So hopefully we'll be able to be a little bit more frequent with them if we're only doing half a season in each one. But it also means we can give each team a little bit more focus because I'm not rushing to get a video out on an entire season. So with that in mind, we are now going to be managing each club throughout the entirety of each transfer window. So no more skipping January in Europe, no more leaving Japan with 3 months still to go because the season started. We are playing every minute of every transfer window with every club, and we need to start seeing some of this nonsense turn around on the pitch. We need to start winning some things. Let's do some transfers. And we are starting in Argentina with Independiente because that end to the season was rotten, and obviously that needs to improve. So we are throwing some money around. As you can see, £16 million worth of players sold, although obviously a lot of that was sold earlier on in the season. We're focusing on what's happened this summer. So the main one, this one annoys me a little bit because Lucio Cabral had a release clause at £6.25 million. We obviously came in for him with Sunderland, with Hamburg. We went at him with all of our might, but he chose to go to Arsenal instead. That's something we do need to be careful of. It's all well and good building up our little conveyor belt of exotic talent, but if they've got release clauses, that can happen. So we need to make sure stuff like that doesn't happen too often. But he was the only major player who's gone. Everything else was kind of trying to keep the team together and invest in it to turn the dross of a season around. So Facundo Sanguinetti has come in to be our new goalkeeper, taking over from Morrow, who we sold to Dinamo Zagreb back in January. Hoped to loan him back and he wouldn't come back. So we have spent the first half of the season without a proper goalkeeper. That's now fixed. We also have a defender. Valentin Gelos is a 27-year-old Argentinian centre-back. Eros Mancuso is a 31-year-old right-back who can also play at left-back. Yes, these are all a little bit older. We're relying on our own youth team to bring the young players in. This is filling squad gaps. I mean, to be fair, he's a decent youngster. Gonzalo Galera, a 19-year-old right-back who we've brought in from Banfield. He has been playing regularly for them, so hopefully he'll not be rubbish. Luca Andrade is a 23-year-old Argentinian winger, can play on either flank. He's been hanging out in Portugal, but is now back in Argentina, having come through Boca Juniors many, many years ago. Maximiliano Salazar, another one who offers a little bit of experience. And then we've also brought in Joaquin Pereira, a 31-year-old Argentinian midfield player. So we've added some age and experience and hopefully quality back into the team, which has been sorely lacking. I think we went a little bit too far, and I think I talked about it in one of the previous episodes. We'd kind of got into the habit of selling off all of the old players and trying to just make this a team that just played kids, so to develop kids for Sunderland, which is all well and good. But if we get relegated, that's not ideal. So we've added some old men back in again, spent all the money we'd been accumulating, and hopefully that's going to be enough to turn the season around. You can see we finally have won a football match for the first time in forever. To be fair, it's against a team we definitely should have beaten. But hopefully it gives us a little bit of momentum to take into the Copa de la Liga. And that is the mid-season transfer window in Argentina done. So the next time we see Independiente, the season will be over and we'll be able to do a proper transfer window. But the youth development plan here did not work, it's fair to say. Next up, it's Urawa Red Diamonds. Their window has now closed, and it's a very similar story. Absolutely rotten first half of the season because we tried to focus a little bit too much on young players. So we've taken advantage of being able to do these mid-season transfer windows for the first time and brought in a bunch of players. We've sold nobody. We've just been filling out the squad with some experience, with hopefully a little bit of quality. So we've signed a 26-year-old striker. We've signed a 22-year-old winger with some decent potential, actually. He comes in from Shimizu S-Pulse. Also from Shimizu, Issa Sakamoto, who's a 26-year-old Japanese striker, Japanese international striker. He's played once for Japan, but an actual experienced top-flight striker. Spent some years playing in Belgium as well. So back in Japan in his mid-20s. Guess he failed in Belgium, but will hopefully score some goals for us. Osamu Henry Iowa is a 32-year-old Japanese centre-back who, again, has been doing the Japanese tour for many, many years now. Came up through the lower leagues. He's a Japanese Jamie Vardy that has been playing in the J-League for a little while. He comes in to offer us a little bit of experience at the back. Shunta Tanaka, exactly the same situation. He's only in on loan, but on loan from Europe. He's been in France for the last 5 years. He's now back in Japan. Again, lots of experience, 23 caps for Japan. And then Ibuki Nemoto is an attacking midfielder / left winger who isn't looking at the camera. I mean, for goodness sake, Ibuki, who has never really played at this level, but has played in Spain. Costa Brava is a nice place to go on holiday, I hear. So that's a positive thing. And the transfers do seem to be making a little bit of a difference. Second half of the season compared to first half, there is a turnaround. There is some improvement going on. We've made it up to mid-table. We're going to have to go some in the second half of the season to qualify for the Champions League again. But for now, we are still in the Champions League because the Champions League in Japan takes place on that lag where it's running opposite. The Asian Champions League runs in line with European seasons, whereas Japan is running in line with the South American seasons, which means we've just played a playoff to get into the group stage. So we have the group stage of the Champions League coming up, and fingers crossed we can put on a decent show in the Champions League, which will take us through the end of this season and then into next season as well. We've already got matches lined up for then. So hopefully, same as what we've done with Independiente, adding a bit of experience back in, taking a little bit of care on actually building these squads rather than just treating them as player factories. Cross everything. We're turning this ship around, which then brings us to Europe, where you can tell we've spent with Sunderland because we've got overdrawn. There is still money left in the kitty and we're not running up transfer debt again, but we are trying to turn this into a decent side. You can see there's been quite a lot of shenanigans between our clubs within our little empire family. So we've signed a guy off of the Mamelodi Sundowns, who's then gone back on loan to them. We've signed this guy from Dinamo Zagreb, who's gone back on loan to them. And Andrew Lowe has come in from Standard Liège. He's an English wonder kid right back, went into Standard Liège last year, and big clubs in England started making offers for him, so we've had to bring him into Sunderland and continue his development here. But he's going to struggle to get into the team because we also brought in this guy to play right back, Fabian Merian. He came in before Loaded, and he's probably more likely to play, but we're not going to worry too much about that. It'll be fine. In addition to spending big money on him, because we're doing less of the fancy player development in the Empire now, we're bringing some youngsters into Sunderland. So I think our first team here is pretty good. We just need to get a flow of young players coming through. So Aurelio Borges is a 19-year-old Brazilian under-20 international. He is a Brazilian wonder kid. I think that's our first Brazilian wonder kid of the save. And I'm very much managing Sunderland as if they were in isolation now, apart from the odd shenanigans transfer. I mean, a lot of shenanigans transfers. Simon Cermak is a 19-year-old Czech goalkeeper who I had planned to send out on loan to one of the Empire clubs, and he doesn't want to go anywhere yet, so he's going to have to sit on our bench for the time being. Mahamadou Balde is on loan from Manchester United, probably unlikely to play any football for us. And then we've also signed an English youngster, Jordan Smith, 18 years old, lots of potential. He's another one who eventually will be loaned out to the Empire. And you can see there's lots of players who've moved on both permanently and on loan. So Arthur Vermeeren has gone permanently to Dinamo Zagreb for £1 million. We spent £55 million on him. He played 3 games for Sunderland, got loaned to Hamburg where he started 1 football match, and has now gone to Zagreb for £1 million at just 25 years old. I don't think Arthur Vermeeren's career has worked out the way he thought it would. Santino Vialaz has gone to Dinamo Zagreb as well. He joined us from Independiente, didn't want to go back. So, I mean, I'm never going to use him. He goes there. Chris Rigg has finally moved on. The Empire structure didn't really work out for him. He had time on loan at Hamburg, Standard Liège, Hamburg again, never really got into the team anywhere, and has now gone to PSV Eindhoven. I bet he can speak a few languages, so we've helped him out with that. Matteo Dams, does this count as another failed transfer? We're clearing out the failed transfers at Sunderland. Signed him for 79 million, lost his place, has gone to Saudi Arabia for 30 million. And Michael Coyote, very similar situation, signed him for 75 million, lost his place, has gone to Saudi Arabia for 28 million pounds. And then also Ori Stein Oskarsson, we signed for 70 million. He's gone to Saudi Arabia for 20 million pounds. So clearing out some of the failed transfers from previous seasons where I hold my hands up. Maybe my eye was off the ball because I was focusing on so many different clubs. we're focused in now. We won't be making these kind of mistakes again. Rather than spending £75 million on dross, we're spending £17.5 million on Brazilian wonder kids. That's the difference. It's a whole new Sunderland, boys and girls. And then we've had the usual fringe players going out on loan to get game time, to Mamelodi Sundowns, to Dinamo Zagreb, to Standard Liège. Parmo, who came in from Independiente, has gone to Watford because he doesn't want to go back to Argentina. He's seen where they are in the league. He wants no part of it. Jose da Costa watch. He's now 6'5" at 19. He has got a full international cap for England, which is interesting when you see that apparently he doesn't seem very good. He's played 2 games in the Premier League, been out on loan in the Championship the last couple of years, is now playing regularly for Standard Liège. But as an England defender, maybe it's time we integrate him in some way. And then we've sent a bunch more fringies out to Hamburg as well. And then on the topic of Hamburg, it is a similar story to what we're seeing at Sunderland. We are trying to manage each club as if they're the only club we're managing, apart from the odd occasion where we take advantage of being able to pluck players from here and there, including Giovanni Quenda, who you might remember we spent £118 million on at Sunderland. He has started 3 games in a Sunderland shirt. He's now been loaned out to Hamburg, where hopefully he can make a little bit of a difference. But we've got rid of some of the dross, as you can see, including Noah Darvic now finally making his move to Standard Liège permanent. It never really worked out for him at Hamburg, but hopefully he'll do a little bit better at Standard Liège. But it's the same as what you saw at Independiente. If a player improves us in a position we need to improve, we're not afraid of old men at the moment. £32 million for Baku to come in and play at right back. He's 32 years old. Florian Engelhardt is 27 years old. He comes in to play in midfield for us. In fact, remembering what we're seeing there with a midfielder coming in, a proper central midfielder, we have had an empire-wide tactical switch. Every team in the Empire moving from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3. We all have to play the same system so that we're developing the same players. But the 4-2-3-1 wasn't working. Chuck it in the sea. Try something different. And then we've signed Joshua Madison, who's a 20-year-old American midfield player, comes in from Freiburg. And also Adriano Onyebuli, who is a 24-year-old German attacking midfielder who we're going to retrain to play in one of the positions we're actually going to use now. We've also signed some Sunderland reserves to come in and get game time for us. Fresneda, another one that never really worked out at Sunderland, was here on loan last year. He's now back. Lauren to be fair, he played 34 times for Sunderland last year. I think that speaks more to his versatility than ability. He wasn't very good. So he's now going to come and not be very good here. Vusian Kossi is one of our South African boys who was signed by Sunderland, sent back to Mamelodi Sundowns, and is now at Hamburg because he wouldn't even go to Standard Liège. So we've got to try and get him some game time somewhere. And of course, you already know about Quenda coming in. So, I mean, as an example, this team, it's a good team. That front three, that's a Champions League front three. So fingers crossed, we start getting better across the board. Standard Liège do suffer a little bit from not being in the Champions League anymore. It's made it a little bit harder to attract players, and there is a little bit less money here. It led to a couple of the better players wanting to leave, including this guy, who we had no interest in keeping within the network, so he moves on. But the biggest blow for Standard Liège is losing Andrew Lowe, who was one of the most important players, one of the better players last year. He's not going to get a huge amount of game time at Sunderland. I tried to loan him back to Standard Liège. He was not interested. So we've had to flail around and try and bring in a replacement right back for him. You can see Standard Liège have become my club of choice when it comes to bringing players from South Africa as well, because I figure this is the club they're most likely to get game time at. I think it's the weakest one of our 4 European clubs now. And plus, they've always had more money than Zagreb because they've been in the Champions League. That situation might change. But we've had most of the star boys from Mamelodi Sundowns have now made it here. So they're all back on loan at them, or most of them are back on loan at the moment. it does kind of mean that I've made the decision through how I've acted at all the other clubs that we have ripped the Sundowns team apart, and now we need to build a new one there, because most of these players, although they're back on loan now, and we might well win another Champions League, they're not going to want to be playing for them in 2 or 3 years' time. So it's going to need to be a whole new Mamelodi Sundowns team that wins the Champions League when everyone else is ready to win it to finish the series. Although obviously winning Champions Leagues in the meantime does help us unlock other clubs. So by all means, carry on winning it, chaps. But Martinelli has come back on loan for a... Oh, in fact, he's not been on loan before. There's already a Martinelli here, isn't there? Hang on. Yes, I knew there was a Martinelli here. I knew I'd not lost my mind. So Martinelli's in on loan to become the new goalkeeper. Wellington is in as a new left-back. He's a 29-year-old Brazilian. Josh King comes in from Marseille for £5 million. They took him on a free transfer from Fulham. Ruben Sanchez is the new right-back, 29 years old, who's come in to replace Lowe. And then... yeah, lots of South African youngsters and a few other decent young players. I mean, Saidu Shaibu looks like he's got some decent potential. He might end up being someone a bit special. Him less so, but him quite hopeful that he's going to end up really quite good for us. He was in Portugal with Rio Ave. Juventus spent big money on him. I mean, this is our kind of transfer. Loaned him out and then sold him for half price. So yeah, we'll have ourselves a little bit of that. If you look at what the best 11 is here now, there's even a couple of our South African boys who might even be good enough to get the job done here in Europe. Sean Morosi, who's actually a Sunderland player. Sunderland signed him for £1 million, loaned him back to Sundowns. He's now been loaned to Standard Liège and is playing and is looking pretty good. And of course, we've got Da Costa, who is on loan from Sunderland as well, who... I mean, star rating looks very different at Standard Liège compared to what it did at Sunderland. So that is a strong looking team. And then lastly, for our European contingent, it is Dinamo Zagreb, who will be in the Champions League this season. So fingers crossed, money will start flowing. You can see they had a couple of players who wanted to leave, Favre, he actually, this wasn't a case of keeping him in the network. It was more a case of we didn't really need him at Zagreb anymore, but he could do a good job for us at Standard Liège, so we picked him up on the cheap there. Gugek was an example of a player who wanted to leave Dinamo Zagreb and was happy to go and play for Standard Liège, so it stopped him going somewhere else, took his release clause away, and yeah, so he comes in. And we also lost Hosman to Sunderland on a similar basis, but he is back with us on loan. Vermeeren you already know about. There's another one of the South African youngsters, Bonolo Masuku, has come in to play for us here and might just be the pick of the bunch out of the Sundowns. Only scored 6 goals in 15 appearances in South Africa, 5 goals in 6 appearances at Dinamo Zagreb, and he looks like he might be quite good. So he is in and having a lovely time. We've also signed a player from Paris Saint-Germain. We signed him before we decided to change to a 4-3-3. So I suspect my assistant manager's not going to use him at all, which is not ideal. And then a bunch of basically just same old kind of strength in depth kind of players. Nothing too spectacular, but nothing rubbish. And I think Zagreb is probably the easiest job of all at the moment because unlike Mamelodi Sundowns, they've not been ripped apart. But I suspect we'll still comfortably win the league, never be competitive in the Champions League, and become a player development factory. What we were trying to do we were trying to force it with some of the other clubs. It might be happening organically here because Masuku, the logical next step for him would be Hamburg if he carries on scoring like that. Viper is not going to be there much longer, I wouldn't have thought. I probably don't want him at Sunderland, but there are clubs circling for him, and I think he might be outgrowing Hamburg. But if Masuku is going to score goals like this for Zagreb, he's still only 19. He's still got potential to improve. He might be taking over as number 9 at Hamburg, or at least being given the opportunity to. And obviously, if he excels there, who knows what his future might hold. He might end up at Sunderland eventually and might become the first, like, perfect developed within the save player, which is what we really want to see happen. And then the final transfer window to close at the end of September is Mamelodi Sundowns. And as you already know, the team has been ripped apart. Standard Liège have had a bunch of them. Obviously, we had a bunch of them go to Hamburg, Sunderland. I mean, since January, let's ignore what happened last year. But since July, this year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players have left to go to other clubs within our empire, and obviously 2 more before that as well. So 9 in the last 18 months have, or not even 18 months, like 14 months, 9 players have left to go and play elsewhere in the empire. And a lot of them have come back on loan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are back in on loan. Although to be fair, these 2 are now no longer in on loan. So there's actually only 3 of those 9 who are back at the club currently. But we, am I even looking at, yeah, no, there's another one there. I'm still getting myself confused. I know what I mean, but we're not worrying too much about surviving with the loan players. They all get a little bit of time after they've left to come back on loan and finish the job. But we're just trying to buy up the media dream 11 every summer. So in that spirit, Dr. Ndaluli is a 20-year-old. I wonder if he's a real doctor at 20. He's a clever guy, but he's got massive potential. He comes in from Amazulu. This is very much a case of us just buying the players from the Dream 11. Just buy everyone, buy the whole Dream 11. So Sebele Belly comes in from Orlando Pirates. Veal Koski, who's not even South African, but was playing for Supersport. He comes in as well. He must have made it into the Dream 11. Ashley Cupido, who's another one who you might remember from my first Pentagon when I was with Cape Town Spurs. Interestingly, he went to Stellenbosch, who I managed in my second Pentagon. I've managed so many South African clubs now. Luke Bartman is here as well, who again you might remember from the first why do I keep calling Pentagon Patreon? They are both very important things in my life. But he was at Cape Town Spurs and has a great name. We ended up taking him to Japan in that save. So, in fact, I think we did with Cupido as well. I think both of them were pretty good in that save. And then Kyle Jurgens, who we've tried to sign about 3 times now, he finally comes in. So it's just a case of buying up that Dream 11. And as you can see, we have most of them now on our shopping list are very much these 2. And they'll probably be coming in when the next ones leave. And as soon as we start getting the European clubs sniff around our players, we'll just take them to another Empire club. And they can either sink or swim. I'm not expecting all of these South African players who are leaving to go to Europe to be a success. But it's very difficult to know when they're still here which ones will be the success. So we want to keep them all and give them all an opportunity. Because, to be honest, I wouldn't have picked him out as the one. But it looks like he might be. And fingers crossed, more of the same. Right, now we've finally done all of our summers. And look, I've played all the way through to the 23rd of September. I think the Argentinian season ends in about a month. I don't get a lot of time off. When am I supposed to go on holiday? Now. We're going to go on holiday now. I'll be back at the end of a season. And it's the Argentinian season that ends first, 13th of November. So I actually got a couple of months sat on a beach. And I guess things slowly sort of turned around a little bit. I mean, that run was miserable. There is some green in this second half of the season. And actually finishing 7th, 3 points outside of the playoffs in the Copa de la Liga. I mean, 1 point behind River Plate. That's not disastrous. I think there are signs of life here now. There's a little bit of money to spend. Obviously, there's still lots to do to rebuild this club and get them back up to Copa Libertadores level. I mean, we were there when I arrived. We last played in the Copa Libertadores last year. Oh, yeah. We need to spend that £7 million wisely and hopefully put a team together. You'll see the team that I put together in the next episode because the window here doesn't close until we get well into January, I don't think. So the window actually closes. I don't know. I'm so confused. Am I looking at the right club? Yeah. Are you telling me the window never closes? It must close there. End of January. So it'll be wrapped up with all the European transfer windows. I have much to do here in Argentina. Less to do in Japan because Urawa Red Diamonds do seem to be in recovery mode. We are slowly but surely climbing back up the league. Let's see how the Champions League is getting on. Champions League, is that going to be enough? Have we qualified? Do we get through that group? Do we not know yet? Do you know the buttons, Kev? I guess we've not qualified, which is a little bit harsh. We came pretty close. Yeah, I think we have been knocked out, which is a little bit of a shame. But we are improving. We are becoming better. We haven't had a budget yet. So I think we've got like until April to do transfers now. So there's going to be lots of comings and goings. Hopefully by the time we leave this team to fend for themselves for a few months in April, it will be very, very competitive again. But at least the season didn't end as... I mean, we genuinely, at the start of this episode, this club was in danger of relegation. So we've climbed back up the table. That's all we could have hoped for. And then we have the European teams. It is the 1st of January, so transfer windows are open again in Europe. And the most exciting thing of all is that Sunderland are up in 6th place in the Premier League. We're finally starting to look like the team the media already think we are. The media think we're good enough to get into Europe. We might be getting into Europe, boys and girls. We've got not loads and loads of players grumpy. I mean, he can be fixed with a new contract. The rest of them are non-issues. We've got a bunch of money to spend in January as well to strengthen with. So things are looking up at Sunderland. The fact that we can now come in, solve these problems and do a little bit of squad tweaking here and there, spend a little bit of money, I genuinely think this is all we needed to do from the beginning. Trying to holiday the entire season probably was a bad idea, but fingers crossed we can nip any dynamics issues in the bud and set us up for a strong second half of the season. That will be the plan. And of course, spending £53 million, because I do love to spend £53 million. It's one of my favourite things to do. Hamburg is a less positive story, down in 8th place, although to be fair, not miles away from where we need to be. In those European qualifications spots. The Europa League is going really well. I mean, look at that for a Europa League. Hamburg and Standard Liège, 1st and 2nd in the Europa League stage. That's a good thing to see. So I guess once the distraction of that is gone, we might sort ourselves out. We've not really got anything to spend. It's more a case of, let's fix these problems, dust everybody off and set them up for a good second half of the season. What's this? This is Real Madrid after one of our players. So we might sell him and reinvest the money. We shall see. And then we already know Standard Liège are doing very well in Europe. Less so in the league. Currently in 4th place, although only 3 points off the top. Roman Fabra, we talked about him earlier. That's why we brought him in here. What a difference maker he looks like he's been. And we're on Da Costa watch. 3 caps for England now. And it looks like he's having a very nice time getting some European football under his belt as well. And there's money to spend at Standard Liège, so we are going to go and spend it. And then Dinamo Zagreb, as you would expect, comfortably clear at the top of the Croatian league, and actually in with a chance of getting into the knockout round of the Champions League, which would be huge. That Champions League run is already filling the coffers with money. Look at this. Oh, we've got some serious money to spend off the back of this Champions League run. I need to check in on Masuku. Is he good? He's good. We might move him over to Hamburg now. Do we take him now? Or do we build Dinamo? I'm I'm going to build each club as if they were my only club. I'm not going to actively try and sell him. If he gets to the point where he tries to force through a move to a bigger league, that's when we take him to Hamburg or Sunderland. I'm not going to force it before then. We're going to stop emptying out our feeder clubs before it's time to empty them out. But yeah, I think on the whole, from where we were at the start of the episode to where we are now 6 months later, huge improvement across the Empire. If we can do that same again in the second half of the season, we could genuinely have 2 or 3 clubs in the Champions League next year and other clubs fighting for trophies and still be developing the young players across the entire Empire, which is what we should have been doing from the start. I think 5.5 seasons in, I'm finally figuring out this multi-club nonsense. We're getting there. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for loads more of this and maybe some FM26 news at some point too. And thank you very much for watching.